Hey everyone, this is John Michael Swift, and welcome back to my looping series. And today we're going to talk about timing. This is the main thing that throws most people off the horse as they get started with looping, because they're trying to figure out, okay, why can't I get my darn loops timed right? And we're going to talk about that, a couple of exercises you can use to improve all that today. And I'll play some music at the end of it, but yeah, let's get into it. So the first thing you want to take care of if you have any issues with it is latency. What is latency, you ask? Well, it's the time, in a lot of ways, it's the time it takes devices to communicate internally. And if the time that you push your button is not the same time at which things get recorded at or played back at, you start to have some problems with your looping signal chain. And it just ends up sounding super weird. So the first thing you want to do, especially if you have a digital rig, or if you have a cell phone rig, I've had problems with both of those. You got to go in there and you got to figure out, okay, where are the latency settings? And how do you make sure that your interface and your computer, it's like anything that's not a dedicated looping device is probably going to have latency problems. So, with like the Loopy app, you got to go in, you literally have to set the latency manually. With most DAWs, you have to set it for a low latency, so it's like kind of on a performance mode in a way. So you do that first. Once you've taken care of that, then you got to work. You got to work on the footwork. So this is going to take some practice for most people at first. That's okay. Just get ready to just practice your loop timing at first. So the first thing you got to do is get used to having a good sharp button press, and it's got to be with the timing you're going to do. So there's essentially 3 steps you have to do. You have to first kind of internalize the timing you're going to do. Let's say you're in 4, just kind of feel the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure you've kind of really internalized the timing. A lot of people want to skip this step, but if you're not really, really good with timing, you really cannot afford to skip it. So you kind of start kind of feeling your timing. 3, 4. The next thing you do, you kind of got to get real close to your looper, and you kind of got to keep your foot kind of armed about an inch away from where you're going to play. And you kind of got to kind of feel the energy and just be ready right there. And you got to practice being in about the same position, because if the distance you go keeps changing, it's going to get hard to keep a really consistent timing. So there's that. And then the last thing is you kind of put those 2 things together, and you make sure you sort of wind up on the beat right before you have to play. So a real simple exercise I'm going to do is just practice counting to 4 into a microphone, and then try to catch that in a loop and see if I can just make an accurate counting to 4 loop. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So once you've done that a couple times and you've really just practiced winding up your foot, then if you want to make it more challenging, you can kind of stack another exercise I do on. If you have a multi-track looper, you can try to fill in other subdivisions. So I'll show you how that goes right now. And this is also getting into what I call a flash loop, where you try to build the loops as fast as you can. You literally go from one loop right to the next, right to the next. Let's see if I can flash loop the 16th notes of a measure of 4/4. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. That one's killing me. Let's try it again. Take it a little bit slower this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So that's another concept I want to talk about I call flash looping, where when you have multi-track loops, you make an attempt to just literally do them all in a row. Bang, 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 bang. It's a really good test of your button technique, and it is a really good way to also just get better at keeping your looping performances going. So it's just a generally good thing to be able to do. Another exercise I want to throw in there is to try to just build some 4 on the floor stacks. Sort of the same way that you did, or just like whatever number it is you're doing. But I think 4 is the one people are most used to. But even if I take my instrument and I really set it up to do loop percussion, if I did the same thing, I just try to get an even percussion loop. But the key point here is that depending on the type of thing you're putting in, whether it's an instrumental thing or a vocal thing or whatever, it's going to feel a little different. So it's good to practice your button timing with some different instruments. And in fact, the next video in the series is what's called 6 types of loop percussion. If you really want to get good at this, try this same exercise with as many of those types of loop percussion as you have access to, and just try to do like a simple 1, 2, 3, 4. Make the loop as short and simple as you can, because the key is you want to push the buttons as many times as you can. You really want to get used to what it feels like to wind up for that spring action and really push through it. Another exercise you can do that's related to that is what I call stack hiding, where you actually just overdub over the same loop, but you try to hide the thing you played back behind itself and see how many times you can stack it and have it sound pretty much the same. That's more of a test of your instrumental technique than your button technique, but I could do it with flash looping here too, so let's actually give it a shot, see how it goes. So it looks like the 4 is a little splatty, but that actually felt that was pretty good. So that's the type of thing you want to do if you really want to practice being precise with something. Do that again and again and see if you can make 3 stacks or overdubs of the same thing sound the same. The last thing I will talk about is turning that all into music. I'm going to take a song that I do with Paraformer called Mungungo Nuts, and I'm going to put the first couple of loops in there, and I'm just going to go bang, bang, bang. And that will be, again, a really good test for my button technique, and I'll really just kind of make sure I've got all my little things set up. I've got, my volume set on my guitar where I want it. I've got the right pickup set. I've got the tempo set on my looper. And often with this type of thing, you often have to practice it in phases. You have to practice it slowed down. You have to practice just the musical part. You have to practice kind of synthesizing them at a slow tempo, or doing the loops, or like do a loop and then wait for a bit and then switch the loop. But at this point, I am going to practice doing the loops literally all right on top of each other. The first loop is going to be as short as I can, and each loop after that's going to be a little longer, which is suitable for the song, but if you really want to nail this, eventually you do basically short loop, short loop, short loop, and you just practice buttons, 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 buttons. This is a really good way to get good at your button technique with whatever music you want to do. So here we go. Let's give it a shot. Here goes Mungungo Nuts. So there's an example of using flash looping for like a real song, and really it's all, I rehearsed that quite a bit today, and I probably did a bunch of takes right here in this video, so it takes some time and often some weaving in and out of different parts and different transitions to really nail that sort of thing down, but it's like that's how you get a looping show that just doesn't bore everyone to death. It just sits there forever, or you have to like repeat the buttons a million times because you hit them at the wrong times. So yeah. That's loop timing for you, and like I said, the next video in the series is going to be 6 types of loop percussion, different ways to make percussion sounds for your looping songs. I hope you find that interesting, so I hope you stick around for that and check that out, and yeah, more on that soon. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.